Emily has changed recently. She started working late every Wednesday. She said a new woman had joined her department and wasn't adjusting well, so she needed company. Susie's kind of pitiful on her own, she always said. Her return times became irregular, sometimes 9, sometimes 11, but her mood was always steady, too steady. No exhaustion from overtime, no complaints about traffic. She'd walk in, smile, and hug me. The hugs became deliberate, like a task scheduled on a calendar. She started cooking more: grilled chicken breast, broccoli, brown rice. We ate healthy. Our sex life was regular too, Friday nights, every week, like a ritual. Everything was normal in a way that felt unsettling. I began to notice things. At the very back of the shoe cabinet, there was an extra pair of men's dress shoes, size 9. I wear an 11. The smart security camera in the living room would go offline every Wednesday evening around 7, for about half an hour, manually shut off. Emily's phone no longer stayed in the bedroom overnight. Let's charge it in the living room, she'd say. Radiation isn't good for sleep. Her phone case was new, matte, non-reflective. I didn't ask, I just watched. That Tuesday, it poured. My project meeting was canceled. I got home early. I opened the door. A single lamp was on in the living room. The air smelled strongly of lemon cleaner, too strong. On the coffee table were 2 wine glasses, washed, upside down on a linen towel, still dripping. I stepped onto the balcony. In the glass ashtray were 3 cigarette butts, Marlboros. Emily doesn't smoke. I quit 5 years ago. I stood there for a while. Rain tapped against the glass. Then I went to the kitchen and made dinner. Emily came home at 10. She froze for a split second when she saw me, then smiled. Home early today? Meeting was canceled, I said. She kissed my cheek. She smelled like rain and faintly unfamiliar aftershave. The next morning, I took out the trash. On top of the black garbage bag was a crumpled delivery receipt. Char-grilled steak said X2, men's mint shaving foam X1. Order time, 7:15 p.m. last night. Delivery address, my house. I took a photo of it, put it back. I didn't confront her, didn't follow her. I did 3 things. First, I called a locksmith, replaced all the lock cylinders, but the new system had a transition setting. The old keys would still work for the next 21 days. The locksmith demonstrated it twice. I nodded. Second, I logged into the home security cloud. I didn't watch a single Wednesday night video. I only exported the system logs. Every manual shutdown and reboot was there, timestamped to the second. Third, I met my lawyer, Mark, an old friend. I showed him the timestamps, the delivery receipt photo, and the cigarette butt photo. I later picked one up with tweezers and sealed it in a bag. We re-examined the prenup. He drafted new property documents, including a statement regarding potential unilateral fraud in property acquisition. I signed. You sure you don't want to confront her now? Mark asked. I don't need a confrontation, I said. I just need timestamps. Lots of precise timestamps. I started coming home late, told her work was busy. I went on a business trip to Cleveland for 2 days. In reality, I stayed at a downtown hotel and watched 2 movies. I stopped replying to Emily's messages promptly. Hours later, I'd send a short reply, busy. I could feel her relax, a loosening after tension. She checked her phone less. Her Wednesday overtime became even more regular. Sometimes on Saturday mornings I'd pretend to go to the gym. Not long after I left, she'd rush out too, then come back hours later with damp hair, like she'd showered in a hurry. The security logs told me the story was accelerating. The old key was being used more often. Once a week became twice, sometimes 3 times. The timing was right. One Sunday morning, I said to Emily as she was making juice, headquarters has a long-term project. I might need to go to Seattle for a few months, starting next week. She turned around. Orange juice spilled onto the counter. How long? 3 or 4 months, maybe longer. I wiped the counter. Be careful at home by yourself. She hugged me, tight. I couldn't see her face, but I felt the slight tremor in her body. It was excitement, not reluctance. I'll miss you, she said, her voice muffled against my shoulder. I know, I said. I didn't go to Seattle. On Monday, Emily drove me to the airport. I went through security, then exited through another gate and took a cab away. On Tuesday, she took the day off. The cameras showed that at 10 a.m., the old key opened the door. A man dragged a small suitcase into our house. He never showed his face to the camera, but he was tall, wearing a gray hoodie. They stayed together for 8 hours. During those 8 hours, I did the following. Submitted the complete evidence chain, security logs, delivery records, blurry footage from the building elevator showing a man repeatedly entering on Wednesdays, and written statements from neighbors who had noticed an unfamiliar vehicle parked for long periods, to the Homeowners Association for record. Contacted the home insurance company to report potential long-term unauthorized occupancy by non-owner and initiated a policy review. Met with Mark and signed the formal lawsuit. Core claim, annulment of current property allocation due to marital fraud, concealment of material history and intent, seeking full property ownership. Mark hired a private investigator. Within 24 hours, I had a report, with photos. I recognized the man. His name was David Clark, Emily's ex-husband. They were married for 2 years, divorced 5 years ago, 6 months before I met her. On the home purchase documents, under prior marital history, Emily had checked none. The report ended with a single line. Believe that Mr. David Clark is currently unemployed. Former residence vacated. No fixed address at present. So that was it. Not an affair driven by passion. A planned relocation. Into my house. Friday afternoon, I went home. I opened the door with my new key. David was in the living room, wearing my old lounge pants, watching sports. Emily was in the kitchen, humming. They froze when they saw me. Project got canceled, I said calmly. What followed was loud. Excuses, crying, shouting. I said nothing. I pointed toward the door. 2 large suitcases were already packed and waiting there. Emily's things. Not much. Get out, I said, the first and last time I raised my voice at them. David tried to rush me. I lifted my phone. On the screen was Mark on a live call, and the words 911 connected. He stopped. They left, dragging the suitcases. Emily turned back once, her eyes red, filled with something I didn't try to interpret. A week later, Emily came back for the last of her things. The divorce papers were already en route. A temporary freeze on the property had been issued. The house was almost empty. Everything of hers was gone, except the massive closet in the master bedroom. It was empty too. On one shelf sat a manila envelope. She walked in, saw the empty closet, paused. Then she picked up the envelope. I was sitting on the only chair left in the living room. The rest of the furniture had been sent out for maintenance. She came out holding the envelope. What is this? Her voice was hoarse. Open it. She pulled out the documents. A copy of the potential unilateral fraud statement. On the last page was my signature. The date, 2 months ago, long before the first cigarette butt appeared. There was also a note, in my handwriting. Emily. The spare key was a privilege I deliberately left in place. I knew where it would lead you. I was waiting for you to use it one last time. She looked up. The color drained from her face. It was the despair of sudden understanding. She finally saw that all the normalcy, all the concealment, all the planning, had existed inside a larger, silent net. There was no value left in arguing. The accounting had already been done. She stuffed the papers back into the envelope and gripped it tightly. She walked to the door without looking at me again. The door opened, then closed. The deadbolt clicked, clean, decisive. I sat in the dimming living room, listening to her footsteps fade down the hallway, then the elevator chime. Silence. I slowly let out a breath and stood up. Time to install a truly new lock.